Good evening, I'm Cynthia Ng. This is AWANI Tonight. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim says Malaysia will tighten health checks on incoming travellers due to a spike of COVID-19 cases in other countries. He says every traveller will be treated equally and that the authorities will not discriminate against people from a certain country.
Jemaah Menteri memutuskan tanpa ragu bahawa masalah kesihatan rakyat itu adalah hal yang utama. Soal pelancongan atau pertumbuhan ekonomi itu tidak boleh mengatasi kepentingan mengawal dan merawat rakyat dari segi wabak dan juga jangkitan, termasuk COVID-19.
Health Minister Dr. Zaliha Mustafa previously announced that all visitors entering Malaysia must undergo temperature checks, with symptomatic visitors to be referred to the health authorities for further action. Meanwhile, those with a history of travelling to China within 14 days of their arrival must undergo an RTK antigen test, and samples will be sent for genome testing if they turn out to be COVID positive. This also applies to those who have been in close contact with people who travel to China within 14 days or exhibit influenza-like illnesses or severe acute respiratory infection.
Only half of the population has received their booster dose, while only 2% took the second booster against COVID-19. According to Astro Muhammad Khalib, CEO of Galen Centre for Health and Social Policy, vaccine fatigue and distrust in COVID-19 vaccines may be the reasons behind the low take-up of booster doses.
Malaysians often have cited being tired of being vaccinated, worried of adverse effects, like getting sick after being vaccinated, and if being fed up at being told conflicting information regarding vaccines and not being able to spend time to get vaccinated. So vaccine fatigue combined with the trust deficit in both the vaccines and the government are serious challenges or barriers to getting people vaccinated again. And the government needs to convince people to get vaccinated. It cannot force people to get vaccinated. So the government needs to be able to address these issues, but also provide as much information as possible concerning what people can do to ensure that they don't get those kind of effects. Now, again, I have to stress, we know a lot more about the vaccines than when we first rolled them out. Today, we are able to alleviate some of those concerns, but most importantly, the government must be open to answering those questions and to provide information as necessary. Now, here's the thing. At the end of the day, it's your decision. It's people's decision to get vaccinated. You cannot force people to get vaccinated. And so what you want people to have is the ability to make an informed decision or whether or not to get their second booster.
Astro also called on the public to get boosted soonest in the wake of possible new waves of COVID-19 infections.
So today, not only do we know much more about the disease, how it is spread, how it causes serious disease, morbidity and premature death, we also have the knowledge, tools and strategies of what works and what doesn't work to protect ourselves. And this includes wearing masks and getting vaccinated. The vaccines that have been rolled out, and majority of this population has already been vaccinated with the primary dose. We know that vaccines work in reducing serious disease, needing hospitalization and critical care and death. However, as we know, there are still many who have not even received their first booster, which is currently at around 50%, and have only taken their primary jab. So it is essential to remind everyone that with this disease and the vaccines that we are currently depending on, boosters are necessary, especially if your primaries are the inactivated virus vaccines. In other words, the Sinovac vaccine, which around half of the population have been vaccinated with. So they are necessary, boosters are necessary to increase the immunity levels and protection against severe disease due to COVID-19. And if you haven't gone for your first booster, please do. And if you already have your first booster, then maybe you should consider getting a second booster after that.
The government has agreed for Sabah and Sarawak to decide on the implementation of any public works projects valued at less than 50 million ringgit in their respective states. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim says decisions can now be made in Kuching or Kota Kinabalu without having to go through Putrajaya.
Walaupun peruntukan besar diberikan, tetapi peruntukan itu pun tak dapat dipenuhi kerana pentadbiran mengikut peraturan biasa yang terpaksa merujuk ke persekutuan. Jadi kita telah putuskan dan Kementerian Kewangan bersetuju untuk menetapkan mana-mana projek di bawah 50 juta ringgit itu diserahkan hampir sepenuhnya kepada Sabah dan Sarawak melaksanakan dengan mematuhi peraturan-peraturan dan kewangan, tetapi keputusan itu boleh dibuat di Kuching atau Kota Kinabalu tanpa dilengahkan kerana tunduk kepada peraturan-peraturan lama.
Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim will also discuss about the special grants for Sabah and Sarawak as enshrined in Article 112D of the Federal Constitution. A meeting will be held with Sarawak Premier Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg and Sabah Chief Minister Datuk Sri Hajiji Noor by the end of the month.
Peruntukan itu yang mulanya diberi sekitar 65 juta. 16 juta pada peringkat awal. Ya, 16 dan 25. Tetapi dan harus dikaji semula setiap 5 tahun. Hal ini tidak berlaku. Dan oleh demikian kita harus memastikan ada peningkatan jumlah yang mensabah peruntukan yang berbeza daripada capitation grant ataupun road grant maris ya. Ini dalam perjanjian Malaysia 1963.
The Communications and Digital Ministry will review the SOP for its SMS broadcast after receiving complaints about the government blasting messages praising itself. Its Deputy Minister Tioni Cheng says that she was aware of the complaints and will make further improvements.
Through its GOV SMS broadcast, the ministry had sent messages describing the coalition government as a solution based on the law and federal constitution. Another SMS also praised the government for having diverse set of MPs with various expertise and experiences. The GOV broadcast channel was meant for public service announcements on initiatives by ministries and government agencies. Pakatan Harapan MPs had criticised the previous government for sending similar text messages to the public, alleging that the official SMS channel was being used to spread propaganda.
Will SOSMA be reviewed under the coalition government led by Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, who himself has been detained under the ISA, a law which was replaced by SOSMA? Tonight on Consider This, we ask the guests if SOSMA should be reformed or repealed. We will go for a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Itu bukan cara nak nyanyi, adik. Gillette Flexi Vibe, kepala fleksibel. Cukup sekali terus licin. Cukup sekali terus licin, tak kecoh. Gillette Flexi Vibe. Jangan kau ragu. Serahkan seribu. Selari jiwamu. Sinar keikhlasan itu terpancar di wajahmu. Serahkan serimu.
Welcome back. Russia's defense ministry blamed the illegal use of mobile phones by its own soldiers for a deadly Ukrainian missile strike that killed 89 people. Russia previously said 63 soldiers were killed in the attack in the town of Makivka, but Ukraine claimed the death toll was much higher, with around 400 Russian soldiers killed.
Officials said the use of banned phones allowed the enemy to locate its target. An investigation is being carried out on the circumstances of the strike that Russia said occurred at 12:01 a.m. on New Year's Day. It said 6 rockets were fired from a US-made HIMARS rocket system, 2 of which were shot down. The Defense Ministry's reaction came amid mounting anger among some Russians over the attack on the temporary deployment center, where many of the victims were reservists recently mobilized into the army. The attack is the deadliest known assault on Russian forces during the war.
Myanmar's military leader, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, said that preparations are going ahead for a national election later this year and urged the country to participate in the political process. Min said this during Myanmar's Independence Day parade, where the junta also announced an amnesty for 7,000 prisoners to mark the anniversary. The plan to call for a general election is widely seen as an attempt by the junta to legitimize its seizure of power in 2021. The military is expected to control the entire election process, with parliamentary political opposition eliminated. Although not officially outlawed, the former ruling party, the National League for Democracy (NLD), has effectively been broken up, with its leaders and many of its members either in jail or in hiding. NLD leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been sentenced to an overall jail term of 33 years. The first real move toward holding elections could occur at the end of this month, when the latest extension of a state of emergency is completed. The state of emergency was instituted to allow military rule after the junta seized power in February 2021 from Suu Kyi's elected government. Over in the Philippines, around 300 top-ranking police were asked to resign as the government seeks to clean the ranks of ties to illegal drugs. Interior Secretary Benjamin Abalos Jr. urged all generals and colonels to step down after an investigation found that a handful were involved in narcotics.
According to Abalos, the top cops could continue working while their records are reviewed by a committee. Those found guilty would have their resignations accepted. Philippine police have been waging an anti-narcotics campaign launched by former President Rodrigo Duterte and continued by his successor Ferdinand Marcos Jr. But over a dozen officers were arrested or relieved from their posts and put under investigation last year for their involvement or suspected involvement in the drug trade. The war on drugs has left over 6,200 suspects dead, although human rights groups have cited higher death tolls.
Tech companies of all sizes are showing off their latest gadgets and products at CES, formerly known as the Consumer Electronics Show. Around 100,000 visitors are expected to attend this year's gathering in Las Vegas, but that is a 41% dip in attendance compared to the last in-person show held in early 2020 before the pandemic.
The show kicked off on Tuesday evening with media previews from thousands of companies, from large tech firms to small startups, before it officially opens Thursday. Michigan-based Bird Buddy has created a smart bird feeder that notifies owners of visitors and captures photos of birds when they fly in for their treats. The startup says its AI technology can recognize more than 1,000 species of birds, allowing users to share through a mobile app what kind of birds they are feeding.
It's bringing people a lot of joy. Connecting with the wildlife in their backyard. It creates a fun app with all the different species that you can see. It's also collecting a lot of data that's going to be super useful for conservation efforts.
Netherlands-based Orbisk, meanwhile, has created an AI-powered bin that helps restaurants limit their food waste. Before chefs throw food waste in the bin, the smart device takes a quick picture and then uses an algorithm to recognize ingredients and register food waste. Mobility tech is also going big at this year's CES with new electric vehicles and self-driving technology. French startup Rollers is taking a more personal approach with electric roller skates, which claim to double your walking speed up to 7 miles per hour or 11 kilometers per hour. CES 2023, which runs from January 5th to 8th, draws over 3,000 exhibitors from 170 countries and regions.
And that wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching. Good night.